Yeah, well, to your point, though, there are people who are in opposition, and many have said, including Leonard Leo, head of the Federalist Society, the Speaker of the House, has
Yeah, Mike
said that
Johnson. Yeah.
this, yes, has said that this is dead on arrival. And, the de minimis reform in terms of ethics, as you said, like recusing from cases that you have where there might be self-dealing or not self-dealing, but your family members are involved, or there's some reason that you should, some very clear reasons in recent instances as well with some of the justices that you should be recusing from the case. Sort of these de minimis reforms are having extreme opposition, extreme difficulty getting a consensus or getting pushed through. So the idea that this is DOA and this is just sort of Biden's last, like some sort of swan song to try to appease his base, what do you think of that argument?
Yeah, I think two things. One, clearly there's a political angle to this, right? He sees where the party is. The party wants reform, and he wants to be seen as leading that reform. Whether or not this announcement was going to happen, if he was still running for president or not, that might be an open question. I think it probably would have, but he wants to be putting his stamp on the Supreme Court because during the time in office, it has become his time in office. It has become such a major hot button issue, right? He was president when Roe versus Wade was overturned. He was obviously president 29 days ago when Trump v. US came out. Plenty of other major cases on Chevron deference and environmental regulations and affirmative action that came out not probably the way the average Democrat would want, and not the way that Joe Biden would want. So he was president when all that happened. So it would be kind of weird for him not to try to make a stamp on it. And it was a bit strange that he didn't do anything after the Presidential Commission on Supreme Court Reform that he started in December 21 came out with a bunch of recommendations that included things like an enforceable ethical. Sorry, didn't come out with recommendations. It was not allowed to come out with recommendations, but it mentioned 18-year term limits, ethics reform, recusal reform, that sort of thing. So it's strange that it's sat on the shelf for that long. And so, I think it's part of it. He wants to put his stamp on it. And the second thing I'll just say is, just sort of taking more of a 30,000-foot view, what might be possible is following a playbook that has worked in the past with court reform. So it's that which members of Congress themselves have to follow should be followed by federal judges and justices. And I'll just give one quick example. In 2022, Congress passed a bipartisan law that President Biden signed that required federal judges and Supreme Court justices to post details of their stock transactions online and to post their annual financial disclosures online. There was resistance from certain corners of the judiciary to not have the Supreme Court or to not have some magistrate and bankruptcy judges have to have this requirement, but they lost, thankfully. And now, I mean, I was just on the database this morning. Every single justice's disclosure is there. Every single justice's financial transactions is there, in addition to thousands of others from the lower federal courts. So if we look at that as a model, there are certain things that Congress already has to do, whether it be not accept gifts over $50, report on all of their travel, expenses in an itemized and comprehensive way. So I think looking at some of these maybe smaller reforms that already apply to Congress and then applying them to the Supreme Court might be strategically a way to move forward that sort of touches the issue of ethics without being seen maybe as a major overhaul like some in the Republican Party are calling it.